I'd like to take the time before this video starts to thank each and every one of you who support this channel. From those who are new around here to the select few who can remember when the first review was uploaded, to think we made it to 100 episodes already is just insane to me, so thank you. Initially, the setup for episode 100 was simple. I knew that the milestone would clash with the second year of Tony Hawktober. Not wanting to settle with the 100th episode awkwardly falling into the mix of 6 other uploads in that week, I decided to put extra work into padding the episode count beforehand. Some might wonder why I didn't just wait until after Hawktober, but the problem is that my plans were being made in June, while working on episode 92, and unless I wanted to have 0 episodes until October and celebrate the milestone afterwards, I had to put the extra work in to reach that number before it. Knowing I wouldn't have much time to work on the episode while also getting 6 other episodes completed, I decided that the Spyro Reignited trilogy was the perfect middle ground, a big, relevant video to celebrate on. But obviously, that all changed. When the Reignited trilogy got pushed back until November, all my plans went out the window with it, and I had 0 time to waste organising a replacement. Now, I get the feeling I'm going to make a lot of people mad by admitting to this in a video, but quite honestly, if you're that petty and immature about it, then feel free to fuck off. But Plan B was going to be Ratchet and Clank. For real, I still had 2 episodes to fill before I reached 100, and I figured nobody would expect to see the trilogy covered, ending on Up Your Arsenal for the 100th special. Now, let me tell you why I didn't do that. Out of respect for the channel and the morals I've built it on, but mostly out of respect for all of you who really want to see that, and see it at the quality you expect from this channel, I immediately scrapped that idea because a Ratchet and Clank series review on this channel should never be a Plan B. Just some quick replacement to fill the gap that I know will perform well. It honestly made me feel sick to think that I'd even considered it. But no matter how hard I tried to look elsewhere at alternative options, the lure of having Ratchet's mug in the thumbnail of a major episode was just too good to pass up. And that's when it hit me. I'd only recently purchased PlayStation Move Heroes in the hopes to cover it sometime down the line. Seeing not only Ratchet and Clank, the running gag on this channel for the past 3 years, but also the characters who got this channel on its feet back in the day, and the other characters who redefined what this channel is, with videos that crafted the very formula we still operate by to this day, and the biggest turning point in my personal creative efforts, it was just perfect. And so then, production begun. Not only on sourcing all the required peripherals and such, but also seamlessly transitioning into the topic, which would also follow up as a common theme in Tony Hawktober the following week. From the moment I laid eyes on it, there was nothing else more suited. How better to celebrate 100 episodes of my heart and soul than by exploring its past, present, and future. Now, with all the work going into Tony Hawktober, I didn't have much time to get anything else done, leaving the 100th special a mere 10 days to be completed. Yes, this was made in just 10 days, so let's get into it. First things first, playing the game and taking notes. This is a game that doesn't really have a whole lot to say about it, and I knew that before even booting it up. I've done 100 of these, you get to know how things are going to pan out. So, I decided that the primary focus of the episode should be the live action segments. Following the Sly Cooper 3-part series I made previously, I knew that one day I'd love to do an episode on Sly 4, Thieves in Time, that was a time travel episode. Since then, I've decided to start planting Eyed Jak sparingly into videos that can later be revisited for that episode. I use the term episode lightly. I'd love to do it as a feature-length special, but at the current stage, it's simply a goal for the future. For this episode, I figured I'd go the route of having Jak meet the future version of himself who would have a more experienced, time-tested opinion. This made it incredibly hard to write for, as I don't know how I'll feel about this game in the future. But again, I've had enough experience reflecting on my previous opinions to be comfortable enough to do that. Jak has played games with other characters before, but never with himself, so I decided that would be the overlying dynamic of the character interactions. The two-player cooperative mode being completely one-sided made for an interesting contrast between present and future opinions, with Sly Jak from the future remembering how it felt to be player 1, but being stuck as player 2. Some people were a little confused when the video would cut from both characters interacting on screen to a simple voiceover gameplay, as I don't change my voice for either character. To try and subtly aid the viewer through this, the last character you see on screen is always the one talking in voiceover. If that person is Sly Jak, I will only show gameplay of Sly. If it's just regular Jak, then I'll show gameplay of Jak for a while before slowly drifting off to others. And I always tried to leave a pause and start the next sentence with a response if the characters swap dialogue without a live action cut. It is confusing, but I didn't want to blatantly have text that explained who was talking at any given time. In retrospect, I could have had the characters in the bottom corner on green screen, but even that was a little too on the nose for my liking. As usual, I tried to have as many shots as possible with both characters on screen at once, either talking or interacting with each other. These shots are important for selling the effect that there is actually two different people in the room. All of these shots were done on green screen, mostly with Sly Jak shot as the background layer and regular Jak on the front, though not always. It depends for each shot. The reason I use green screen when I do this and not layer masks and other techniques like that is that it's just a lot easier. With masking, you can't move the camera at all, and with the vast variety of shots, all done out of order, it'd be impossible to line shots up correctly. So, I opt for what works. It's also key for any time a character moves in front of another, such as with the cane shot or any motion control of movement. You get the idea. It's just much easier to approach. Shooting of the episode was a 3-day process. The first day was wasted mostly because all of the stress from the previous 3 months finally caught up with me and I kind of broke down before I could film. I still filmed afterwards everything that's just normal Jak from any default position, but when I have these breakdowns, they completely drain me of all energy and enthusiasm. Luckily, the following 2 days were much better. Every shot for Sly was done in about 3 hours just for reference, as it's all the time I had to work with. People sometimes expect these bigger projects to be full of a lot more funny outtakes and such, but that's just not the case. I get so laser focused that everything is a lot more efficient than normal. Once the video was shot, it came time to edit. To think, with my strict deadline, that I thought I'd have the time for all of this shit. Seriously, again, this entire video was edited in just 3 days. Each day started with a lengthy effects session and a blitzing through generic video in the afternoon. I knew as soon as I found my replacement for Spyro that the video was going to involve a lot of extra work on story arcs and special effects and time-consuming green screen shots. But it wouldn't be a true celebration of 100 Eyed Jak episodes without all the stuff that makes them special. I decided it'd be funny to bring back the Jak is really dark Jak from the game thing I did back in 2015. I even wrote in the line, "Oh yeah, I forgot I had that ability," to parody the fact it never gets referenced in videos. God, if only I knew how to make cool lightning effects like I do now, back in the day, maybe I would do it more often. Thankfully I don't have to though, as this is painstakingly tedious. I've explained it before, but I do a lot of my effects in Photoshop. Quite often, I'll use it to repair things most people wouldn't otherwise notice, such as the cane being swung too fast for the green screen to work correctly. So I had to fix that up in Photoshop. For the lightning effect, frame by frame, I simply draw out a bunch of lines using various glow effects. When played at normal speed, the basic animation really starts to take character, as each frame is unique, like real lightning. I had to do this twice, both for the introduction and the introduction of Eyed Jak into the episode. The start of the video is one of the few rare examples of me actually storyboarding a scene. This is a good process to incorporate for action-heavy scenes with very little dialogue. It helps to visualize how it's all going to play out and makes setting up the shots a quick job. Again, to think I thought I'd have the time for some of this stuff. You wouldn't even notice the extra effort in the final product. To introduce Eyed Jak, I thought it'd be funny to parody the logic of the Binoculcom. I always thought it was funny in the game how you'll be talking to characters in front of enemies during stealth segments. There is no mouthpiece and Sly talks at a normal volume, so how don't they hear you? Not to mention, you'd look like an absolute tool standing there talking into a set of binoculars. Special thanks to Cow for reprising his role as the Bentley character. Cheers, mate. It took me almost 30 minutes just to remember how all of these different Binoculcom layers went together, before I realised once I was done that I could have simply rewatched my old making of episode and figured it out instantly. Fuck's sake, Jak. The shot here where Jak tackles Eyed Jak up against the shelf was an interesting one, and I'm not overly impressed with the end result, to be perfectly honest. It was added in as something to help sell the effect of both characters actually existing in the same place, as well as explaining their relationship to anyone who hasn't seen the older episodes. I wish I could have had a stand-in for the shot, a stunt double if you will, but that wasn't really an option. So instead, I simply dressed as Sly and got a good angle, then I cut that out and keyframed it over the top of footage where I pretended to grab him by the shirt and threaten him. The end result is kind of bad because the keyframe looked incredibly unnatural. In hindsight, acting it out on green screen would have fixed that issue. However, I wasn't up to that stage yet, nor had I really figured it out beforehand. I did have the genius idea to actually hold the blue hoodie so that it actually looked like I had a hold of him, but it wasn't enough to save it, unfortunately. Overall, I am still really happy with the final product. I think it's a fitting tribute to the history of the show's handful of years that also sets up future content, along with it just being a fun, turn your brain off video, talking about a pretty average game, not all that interesting on its own. But not only did I want to celebrate the channel and the series itself, but also the people who've supported it through its highest highs and lowest lows. Even when the episode was still going to be Spyro Reignited, I knew that I wanted people to submit videos for an epic outro. I stole this idea from a wrestling podcast I've been a loyal fan of for a while now, OSW Review. Some time ago, they did a fan-submitted video intro to one of their biggest shows at the time, and I thought it was a really cool idea. But I'm not a podcast, so the idea of doing a lengthy intro wasn't the best, but an outro sounded great. Being at the end of the episode gave me a lot more leeway with how long it could be, and for anyone who didn't want to watch it, they could simply turn the video off before it, having still seen the full episode. Plus, I feel like my outro is a lot simpler, easier, and more well known than any sort of intro I've ever done. So I put the call out. I was expecting to surpass 100 entries, but not in the first 24 hours. Jesus Christ, you guys are mental. That blew my mind so much, not only just as a result of the overwhelming response, but also actually getting to see the people who watch my stuff. It was really important for me in that respect. And everyone was really cool, showing a lot of personality, and yeah, it was awesome to see everyone so keen on it. We ended up with a whopping 218 submissions in the final video. Unfortunately, 2 were left out at my own fault, as they simply got lost in the shuffle, but you can see them along with all of the other submissions in full by clicking this card in the top right corner of your screen. I knew it was going to be a lot of work compiling these in a way that didn't feel like a bunch of random clips thrown together, and I was right, though it wasn't as difficult as what you might think. The hardest part was just trying to get every single clip in, even for the shortest time. This meant that a lot of submissions got clumped together, but I think that's okay. It had to be done. But again, I am really happy with how this turned out. It starts off well and takes a quick break before descending into madness. So, that's the story of how Eyed Jak 100 came to be. It's a shame that it was immediately overshadowed by a much larger channel special, but I'm still so happy with how it all turned out. I couldn't even imagine a Spyro Reignited episode 100 now, with a lengthy outro and nothing else all that special about it. Instead, we were able to tribute everything this channel has ever stood for, represent its past, present and future, and celebrate with all the people who've supported it over the years. 10 days of hard work, 3 days of scripting and prep work, 3 days of shooting, 3 days of editing and spending my free time each night to compile everyone's submissions into a functioning outro, and with the thumbnail and title card already completed by the amazing Cran time, that leaves us with only 1 day left, which was the early access period. A special thanks to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon by pledging every month to unlock exclusive content such as blog posts and a monthly podcast, as well as super cool benefits like early access to videos before YouTube. Without it, we might not have even made it to 100 episodes, and definitely not at the quality and production levels you've all come to expect from this channel. So again, thank you to all those people, and thank you to everyone for continuing to support this channel into 100 more episodes. If you have any further questions about the production, be sure to leave a comment down below, followed with liking, subscribing and sharing the video. I'm Eyed Jak, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.